we are kind of going to continue that same dialogue in this session as well. Now let me introduce our distinguished panelists and session moderator. I will start with Ms. Reema Mittal, who will be moderating this session. She is currently Chief Operating Officer of IIT Kanpur Research and Technology Park Foundation, and she focuses on accelerating industry-academia collaboration in the areas critical to Indian economy. Welcome, Ms. Mittal. As a panelist, joining us is Dr. Rajesh Gopakumar, Director, International Center for Theoretical Sciences at TIFAC. His love for core research is pretty long affair, as he selected to get into Physics Department of IIT Kanpur after being a topper in IIT JEE in 1987. Welcome, Dr. Gopakumar. Our next panelist is Dr. Gautam Goswami, who is Head of Foresight and Vision Division in Technology Information, Forecasting and Assessment Council, TIFAC, which is a part of Department of Science, Government of India. Currently, he is heading the Technology Vision 2047 program, along with several other vision and policy initiatives. If you have worked on Technology Vision 2020 or 2035, we are working with him. So, welcome, Dr. Goswami. Our next panelist is Professor venkatesh, who is Professor at IIT Bombay's Chemical Engineering Department. His passion is to digitize healthcare ecosystem by linking different stakeholders through data and science. This has resulted into him founding Metflux Research that offers specialized applications using system physiology models. Welcome, Professor. So, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself to be captivated by the enchanting words of science's core research and its applications. Fasten your seatbelts, or should I say, put on your thinking caps as we embark on this exhilarating intellectual journey. Handing it over to our moderator, Ms. Mittal. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Madam, just a minute, madam.
Yes.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Ganesh, and thanks to the PAN IIT alumni team for giving me this opportunity. So I think the tone for the discussions for the day has already been set. When we started, when Mr. Praveen Bhargav said, that there are different factors that lead to innovation, and mindsets is what he mentioned as one of the factors that can lead to innovation. Similarly, Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan also then highlighted that how India has to lead as a global research powerhouse, then the equal focus needs to be given to applied research, or what you say, the mission mode projects in the white spaces, the research in the white spaces. So, Professor Gopakumar, you have been a theoretical physicist all your life, and at this point of time, you are heading a very unique institute, which is the International Center for Theoretical Sciences, TIFR, where the focus is, more on the theoretical sciences, right, and the hardcore fundamental research, which is more of curiosity-driven. So, when we all know where India stands today, there's a lot of indigenization of products and technologies happening in the Make in India. The startup ecosystem is booming. Where do you see the fundamental research fits into this entire framework and the role it will play in making India a global superpower?
Thank you. And I'm happy to be here as part of this session, and I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me. Ms. Mittal, let me say that I see fundamental sciences as a very essential component in the larger ecosystem, which is often overlooked. So I give an analogy usually in the real world ecosystem. Actually, my son used to watch this BBC documentary called Secrets of Our Living Planet. And each episode started with a question, like, why does the Sundarban tiger meet the crab? And then through the episode, they would show how the Sundarban, the tiger, through a very complex chain of connections, actually needs the crab, which lives in those mangrove waters, to really survive. So these hidden connections are things that we often don't see in nature, and I think in the evolution of scientific ecosystems as well. So I often try to say in our universe, there are similar hidden connections which we may not be aware of. So I asked him that, why does the Dirac equation help us to live a longer life? And that's because there's a whole chain of connections leading from this purely theoretical development through to the creation of the PET scan, the positron emission tomography scans, which we all use, which are an important medical diagnostic. So there is this chain of connections from our fundamental discoveries about the universe to things that then impact our social life is a historical fact. And this is something that the advanced technological powers and the scientific revolutions of the 16th, 17th century, as it happened, led to these technological developments precisely because they could harness these discoveries. And so in India, we have to have this as part of our ecosystem, because otherwise we will be only following the lead. We won't be making the true discoveries which will change things completely. And I think the fundamental sciences, especially if we can think big, if our researchers are not afraid to tackle questions, challenges which are at the moment, even I mean, the nature of fundamental discoveries, game-changing discoveries, is such that it is not deterministic. It is not something you can predict what the outcome is. When people were trying to understand atoms, they didn't really know that they would discover quantum mechanics and therefore lead to all the things that right now 35% of the US GDP is based on quantum mechanics, the understanding of quantum mechanics. So I think this is something we need in India, and that's, I think, ICTS and institutions like that are an important part of the ecosystem. But I should add that it would be effective if there is a channel of knowledge and a channel through which this knowledge kind of flows into the rest of the ecosystem. It shouldn't be disconnected pieces of the ecosystem. So that's what I think we have to strive for in our scientific institutions as well.
So could you also could you also, because as you said, ICTS, and I also know that how ICTS is bringing the researchers and the collaborators. I mean, it's a very collaborative approach, There's a lot of discussions happening, bringing the researchers from across the globe in different sciences. So can you, based on your experiences, also highlight some of the areas where, you see India taking lead, or there can be technology breakthroughs in those areas where there is a need for the technology breakthroughs?
No, so at ICTS, it's as an international center, we have several thousands of people coming through the center for collaborative workshops. These workshops are focused on specific themes, which, and the idea is to get people from different even disciplines to come together. I was just talking to Professor Venkatesh about how a recent program was on machine learning, health and disease, which brought together clinicians and also data scientists and computer scientists, so medical clinicians. So these are, I think, very fruitful interactions. An example of something at ICTS we have been focusing a lot on is the Indian monsoon and climate change, because that's a uniquely Indian problem, and at the same time it's a very challenging scientific problem, and it is something I think in India we have people with capabilities and capabilities in different, we need people with different capabilities in mathematical sciences, in partial differential equations, in physical sciences, fluid dynamics, turbulence, even from engineering, people from aeronautical and other areas. We need a combination of people from data science and mathematics. We need a lot of these combinations of people, these collaborations to form, which can attack a challenging problem that individually people may not be able to solve. So these are, so when often people try to make a dichotomy between socially impactful problems and scientifically impactful or significant problems. Often it is not there. It's just in our minds. We think that these are kind of a different category, but often a problem like the Indian monsoon is a challenging problem, and learning to get to the bottom of it, will teach us many things about fundamental science, at the same time make an impact.
Absolutely, I think you very correctly said, because based on my experiences also, what I see, at the research part, we are trying to, it's all about industry kind of collaborations, but I see that how it's being bracketed or categorized, in terms of research, that socially impactful or whether it is scientifically relevant, and accordingly you can see how the industry responds or how the technicians take that. So on that note, Dr. Goswami, I would like to ask you, because you have been a part of TIFAC, which is a technology think tank of the country, and TIFAC has been, it's basically, foresighting and forecasting the future technologies, or setting the directions for the country in terms of technology developments. So what are some of the factors that you take into account, while formulating these technology roadmaps, 2020, 2035, and now you're working towards 2047 as well?
Thanks, Reema. And thank the organizer for having me here. I just want an opportunity to share my thoughts, which I have learned together in the 20 years service. As you mentioned, it is a technology think tank for Government of India, Department of Science and Technology, and basically we are structured to paint the future technological path of India. And 2035 is one of the examples. 2020 was an example when Dr. Kalam was chairing, and we taught many things from him. And he laid the foundation of developed India in 1996. Nobody even thought of it. And we worked on many items on that, but it's not debatable that whether I have received developed nation or not, but advancement happened quite interesting. In 2035, our narrative was totally different. Narrative was not developed nation. Narrative was how to enhance the prosperity, ensure the security and identity of every individual, and what are the technologies to do that. And technologies are identified, grouped them in 4 categories as per the readiness level. Some technologies are absolutely ready for implementation. Some group technologies which are in the laboratory stage need further work for implementation. Some are absolutely in R&D, but most interesting part is group of technologies which are in the imagination, not even R&D stuff. That time in 25 years horizon, what imagination technologies would convert into a product, that was the narrative. In 2047, which you started about 6 months ago, narrative is totally different. In 1947, we got the freedom from British. In 2047, category technology leadership. That is the narrative. Because if you see the past history and India's technology development, we are always followers. We follow the Western world, what they are doing, and we try to either nurture it in a different way or try to develop a product. How to reverse the table. That is the narrative. Now, in this process, there are 2 ways to do that. One is quality, of course, because when you design a vision for the nation, it has to be a concept. And experts' knowledge has to be zoomed into a single document. That is very interesting. Different methods for that, foresight methods for that. And another is structured quantitative techniques. So whatever the board techniques we have got so far, and in fact, we're happy to know that we have interacted almost 11 IITs, where IIT faculty, IIT students, and industry came together, and they gave a lot of threads for future development. Let me share a few of them. What are the technological threads or research threads we got in? First one is in future, and maybe if we place ourselves in 20 years down the line, there will be no barrier for science in subjects. Science, physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, no wise. Because everything will be governed by data. And huge data analytics will make research faster. Even physics through experimentation and physics through data modeling. I am talking about the future trade, which you got it. How much will be actually happen, no one knows, but that is going to happen. Second thing, already been discussed in the previous speakers in the inauguration about AI. We are moving towards singularity, competition between machine and human being. And machine will be more intelligent. That's the forecast. And that is the most dangerous thing. So whether we will allow it to happen, whether we will not allow it to happen, it is on us. So that's why research on ethical AI is another component. In terms of health, altogether different development we are expecting. That's the research source. doctors' role will be totally different. Diagnosis will be absolutely done by algorithms, huge data analytics. Because human genome sequencing will be done. In the next 10 years, everybody's human genome sequencing will be done. It will be cost effective, the way it is moving. Secondly, daily health parameter data can be captured through gadgets, and one even utopian thought says you can put a chip in the baby when baby is born, and that will give you continuous signal about the development. So that huge data, as well as genome sequencing data, done by quantitative technique through data analytics, will predict you what type of disease will be in future. Doctor's role will be to facilitate the interpretation of that result and give you what direction your treatment should be. And you all know about prediction of cancer. Because in Bangalore startup, they are working on it. Where there is a cancer cell happens, a lot of blood flow is more in compared to other places. So from there, through modeling technique, they are able to diagnose that this fellow may happen, get into cancer. So this is all about health. In terms of transportation, altogether different transportation models may come up. We all are talking about VTOL, vertical takeoff or landing. It will be reality in 10 to 15 years down the line. If that is to happen, then we are talking about multi-layered transport in air. One layer for drone, one layer for moving car, one layer for helicopter, one layer for. So now research is on that about to design the policy as well as design R&D methodologies. I mean, manufacturing space, altogether it will be a lot of development are expecting. For example, people are talking about, I had a lot of discussion with space people, they are talking about manufacturing, 3D manufacturing in space. You can command from here and manufacturing can be done on the space itself. Even current chairman ISRO, he also mentioned about the bioman. If that happens, then you need not to send a person in moon. You can control the robots there from here. Whatever you want, that robot can do it. Basically, application of human being there. So a lot of developments are expecting, and if those things at least 80% gets through, a lot of development happen. And India has a lot. Actually, India's intellectual power is much more than the rest of the world. We are serving others, other nations. I discussed this with Netherlands. There is a discussion in that's what we asked them. If people are serving here, we are not. Why you are not serving in India? Because there is no ecosystem. India, everybody is possessing the knowledge to themselves. Now it will be changing, happening. The fellow is saying that here we are our one instrument or one knowledge we are extending to all similar experts, so that a comprehensive development happens. India doesn't happen. India, the instrument comes in, it will be positive to a person or particular group. So that is another changes that required for extension of knowledges and infrastructure to many similar countries.
Yeah, but I would also like to say that you're rightly saying that the research infrastructure and how in India it's, but also because I'm a part of the research park, and research park, academic research parks is a very new concept for Indian academy or Indian industry also. Because so far, we all are now fully aware of how the incubators work with the startups. But what these academic research parks are trying to do is bring in a much closer strategic collaboration between industry and academia. And one of the objectives, which I can very confidently say, is that we are opening up our research infrastructure for the industry to use as one of the offerings, if you are a part of the research park. But at the same time, we are also asking the industry, how about they open up their research facilities or their facilities for the researchers and for the scholars for the academy. So that way, the duplication of the resources is also avoided. So I believe that maybe in the future, you see more of that happening. So I have one question, but I think I'll reserve it for the later, Dr. Goswami. So
just to add to that, in that front, DST already has a broad 3-month policy. So where the infrastructure can be shared, availability can be there online. I can book my requirement to other labs.
Yes.
That is happening.
Absolutely. There are a lot of other schemes also coming in, like Sati and then. So, Professor Venkatesh, again, you are a hardcore fundamental researcher throughout your life. You have been an academician, and it is much recently that you decided to, start your own company, Metflux Research. So basically, you are taking your, and it's a perfect example if I see that how a lab to market transition is happening, or if I precisely put it, that the fundamental research being taken to the industry, to the applied. So there's this integration, right? I mean, of the fundamental research and the applied research. So one, what made you even decide to take that decision after so many years of being in academician? And the other, how has your approach towards your research undergone a change after you started working with the industry? So that's my question.
So being from, a graduate of IIT Madras, and then being a faculty at IIT Bombay from last 30 years, right? So it's always good to be associated with a pan-IIT, program. So like what Reema indicated, I've been an academician through and through, academician last 25 years, and essentially working on systems biology, modeling, hormonal dynamics, organ modeling. So this was my research with some wet lab in the microbial systems. But about 5 years back, I thought that should I continue graduating PhD students, which I'd already graduated 40 of them. Should I continue graduating PhD students and publishing, or should I consolidate the research that have been developed to a different direction? Right? So I was thinking, what is the next step? So I did take a couple of consultancy projects, which is also I was avoiding before. There was absolutely no engagement with industry in my initial phase of academic journey. So I started with some consultancy projects, and that is where I saw that it has its own challenges, right? So a company would give a consultancy project with a very well-defined objective, but it did not, disclose or give challenging problems, because they wanted a very set kind of problem statement, and there were always an issue of IP, which IIT engagement sort of brings in, and they're not very open to come up with consultancy projects as well. So a couple of things, sort of I was thinking in the marketplace. So with that, I started this company. Additionally, I saw that there are two things that are needed. So to any of these endeavors that you want to take it to the next level, and then want to create a unique scalable process for a tech, right? So you need money, right? And I think the government, to approach government for the scale and the vision that you have, again, it becomes a very narrow focus. So you need to present it as I'm going to solve, say, for example, AI to read X-rays. Right? So then the government can fund. But if you have a broad vision, but saying that I'm going to scale this process, I don't think so. Government would be ready to fund that kind of. So that again made me convinced that I have to go for private, right? So I have to convince and talk to industry, come to the marketplace, and try to even get funds, privately, rather than approach the government to bring these tech into the market. And the second is the manpower, right? So the manpower also has to be ready. Although we say that we have the tech, there are a lot of systems biologists who graduate now with theoretical background, modeling strategies that are there. But still, this requires a slightly more training, and that's why I'm now not surprised. I was always wondering why industry says that, okay, you graduate, but we still want to train your people. Because now I understand that there is a gap with what is in the academic. So we need to train them to approach, right? So now I'm glad that people who have done postdoc abroad are now coming and joining Metflux with this vision. So giving an opportunity for manpower and budget to have a vision that is very unique globally and to position it. So this is a challenge I thought, but I thought when I take this risk, it's always a risk, right? From your comfort zone, you have come out. So it's always a risk. So I just took that, and I'm glad that I did, because now I see the value that can be created.
But again, my second question was that has your approach towards your research undergone a change? And I personally would be very interested to know that Do you think industry, do you now think that industry intervention or at some point early in your career would have made a difference to your research? I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, absolutely. As I was telling you,
yes.
I'm also been pondering, right? So what if I had done 10 years back, right? So what have I done 5? Probably, probably it would have been a good idea also. But for everything, an ecosystem has to be created, right? So things have to come together. Probably it happened, because IITs now there is a buzz that startup, more faculties are trying to think of the tech that they're building to translate. For example, already at IIT Bombay, there are close to 50 faculty now, having companies. And I'm sure in IIT Kanpur, IIT Madras, similar things are happening. So there is this ecosystem now that has been created where academicians are not just satisfied with just published work, but they want to take that extra jump. And that will happen once you try to understand whether there is a problem to be solved economically, which gives that economic advantage. So those feedbacks have to come in, and I'm sure that my approach could have been a little different because now I'm after solving a certain academic problem, now it is making me think, right, in terms of how this can be positioned. And are there market opportunity, which I wouldn't have thought before at all, because just the ecosystem is not there. Additionally, also, right now, I'm seeing this opportunity in other faculty, younger faculty who are just doing their research, because I'm engaging with pharma companies, I'm engaging in the market, I get that feedback saying that, a colleague's research can also go into the market. So that feedback I'm now able to provide to my colleagues, saying that, you have got this has this advantage. If you do this additional work, this can go into the marketplace. So not only my own research getting altered, I can now sort of also tell my colleagues that how some of their research can be positioned.
But I think it also because one is yes, having some of the areas where India can lead, in terms of technology, but at the same time the strategies. To push those areas, to push the research and promote research in those areas. So when you say, and very interestingly, and it's a fact that the fundamental versus funding, how it changed for you when you started your company. And a similar example I can get from IIT Kanpur also, because Professor Abhishek, who has this company called Endure, and I was listening to one of his addresses, and he said that the only reason he was doing the same work, of course now it's scalable, he was doing the same work in his lab. And he was reaching out to the industry, but he was not getting any funds, any visibility. And that is also one of the reasons, that motivated him to start this company. Right? So this is, I would say, but not every academician would like to do that. So I would like to ask Professor Gopakumar also on this, that when you were discussing that how fundamental research can be integrated well. And also, as you just mentioned, that there has to be a flow of information. It shouldn't be in silos. The information the knowledge has to flow. So how do you think, because that can be one of the possible, startups as one of the possible strategies I see how it can be brought to the fore. But what in your opinion can be done further, to promote research in these areas?
So firstly, I think bringing people together to open up these channels, I think we need to bring people together who have had experience in making these connections. So it's like I see them as sort of different links, different nodes, and then you have to make the links between them. And often, like someone like Professor Venkatesh, who has had one leg in academia and at the same time knows what it is like from the other side. I think having people like them interact with your academicians gives academicians an idea of what it involves. And but even a stage before that, just having new conversations about new ideas out there. And there are academicians who would probably prefer to do purely curiosity-driven research. I think there should be a space for that, like the crabs in the Sundarbans. I think, but then there should be the other people who listen to them some of the time, hear some crazy ideas out there, and try to take it from there. For instance, another example I'd like to give is, recently you might have seen these pictures of the black hole at the center of our galaxy. These were done by astronomers who put together multiple telescopes, radio telescopes across the world to image that black hole. The kind of algorithms and the techniques they used to actually piece together from a very few number of pixels a fairly accurate reconstruction of that black hole is a feat, is quite a technical feat. And the ideas that went into it, while it was applied to a very wonderful thing to find the black hole, but it can be applied in any other image recognition area. So you need people who listen to that, understand that, oh, there's a potential to use these ideas that astronomers are using to maybe something else. And so I like to say, how does the black hole at the center of your galaxy make your smartphone smarter? Maybe that technology will eventually make your smartphone camera identify images in a much better way. So that's the kind of connections I think we should be looking for.
So Dr. Goswami, I think what also Professor Venkatesh said is in terms of flexibility for funds, the funding opportunities. So because funding certainly is, I would like to know your opinion when it comes to funding such research where, the implications of there are no tangible deliverables as such. It's, like for the curiosity-driven research, or fundamental research, which may, bear or may lead to products of technology maybe 30 years down the line. So somebody, a pure academician just wants to pursue. Do you think there are enough funding opportunities for them in India?
I will address the fund issue later, but I want to flag 3 core issues in terms of research. First is fear psychosis. In India, we are very much afraid of failure. That's why investment on absolutely crazy ideas is much less in compared to other countries. Even when we select a PhD topic, we try to select a topic which I'll be able to successful. Even a failed thesis, nobody would like to justify. So one is fear psychosis, how to institutionalize failure. That is one approach need to be taken from top to bottom. That is one. Second thing is during even fundamental research, even for translational research, we never take mostly. I'm not generalizing it. We never take into account the user view. Once we come out with some product, we try to go to the industry, and sometimes the industry may not need it. So if regular interaction with the industry, in the starting of the conceptual stage, periodical interaction with the industry, what they need, what the society needs, that type of conceptualization, and then start research that may be more sellable. Regarding funding, yes, funding, a lot of funding scopes are available, but problem with government funding is again starting failure. We are investing in invention, new invention, still if it is failed, we will difficult to justify in CAG. They will hang you where the fund has gone. So why it is failed? On the contrary, we are investing on R&D. We are investing on innovation, new innovation. It may fail. So that's why I'm saying funding for that is the reason many new inventions take its own death, because you are not able to convince the funding body that yes, you will get your fund, you will able to return your fund. So these are the few issues which need to be, I'm not talking about the new thing, it's being discussed many forums, but still need to be pointed out because it needs to be settled.
Yeah, but this is very contradictory, if you do not, contradictory to what we are trying to say, that, the pure research.
It has to be.
You need to have funds. You should let the academician, the researcher pursue that.
And that's why in new NRA, 30% from government and 60% from industry. That is that funding is required because we are investing less than 0.8% in GDP in R&D. That won't give you leadership, technology leadership. You need at least 3 to 4% of investment, and that too 50% should come from 60% come from industry. So biggest challenge, and a huge country, huge diversity. These problems will exist. We may give sermons, but the real problem is our diversity and different type of ecosystem.
So I think since looking at the time, so maybe we can open the floor for the questions. one or two questions we can take. Yes. Anybody?
Sir, my
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for this wonderful panel discussion. My question is about how do we build talent in India? We're talking about innovation, talking about the ability to take risk. Right? How do we inculcate this culture early on into our academics? Many of us realize once we start having gray hair that this is the time for me to make a change. How do we bring this change? And probably it's going to take 10 to 20 years for us to really realize what we do today in terms of impact on innovation in society.
To my mind, that very interesting question. First of all, every institution, be it IIT, non-IIT, we should have a regular mechanism to identify weak signals, challenging ideas and crazy ideas. If we convince ourselves that this will give you the product, that may attract talents. And second thing is experimental basis learning, which is already started. And why so many startups are coming up? Because the ecosystem is getting changed. And I believe that the way we are going and the way institutes are opening up and multi-sectoral research is going on. Because engineering, then medical are working together. Many IITs are working on it. So that type of opening up will give a lot of avenues for attracting talents.
Yeah, just to add to that, one of the things is the way that education happens, even in the schools, right? So things have to sort of change. I think there's a social angle also to this, because most of the time, right, even IIT graduates, so they want to go up their social things, so they want a job. Right? So 15 lakh job is their end goal, right, with which they start. Whereas if somebody graduates from IIT, but he already there in the upper middle class, that is not a restriction, so they can sort of take risks. So through Metflux, we are now engaging with a company in San Francisco, right? And so the founder is a 16-year-old person there. Okay, so you can imagine the ecosystem that exists there. A 16-year-old, and you can see the confidence, the way he portrays the problem statement that he's trying to solve, and he also knows that how to engage with what is the strength that they can take from Metflux, right? So I cannot imagine a 16-year-old in India to rise to that and then give that. So that means that they've done something completely different, right? And he's going to now join Berkeley, right, for his undergraduate after his 12th standard. I mean, three courses in a semester. The flexibility at Berkeley, you just look at it, right? So he has to take 3 courses, 20 courses he finishes, he gets his BTech. Right? And that is the kind of freedom and encouragement that the whole ecosystem is providing. Obviously, there are founders and people trying to put money with risk, even on a 16-year-old, right? So that is a complete different ecosystem that we need to. But I'm optimistic because I know that we are moving in the right direction, right? So maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, we'll be ready for it. And already I see, pointers that we are doing. I think, but this has to be encouraged, and then the system also should try to provide these problem statements so that we can do it quicker than later.
I'm tempted to share one knowledge or information which we encountered during my recent visit to Amsterdam with IITs. This is for startup guys. One startup, it is a 10 years startup, and he almost lost everything, but today he is an employer of 3,000 persons. So he was narrating his story, how he built up, and self-confidence, and this such type of information, if we open it up in knowledge domain, it will attract talent to invest on startups and research.
Yeah, I completely endorse the things that were just mentioned, especially about the education system and young people. And I think we're seeing a little bit, we engage in a lot of outreach activities at ICTS, and in particular, we have something called the math circles, which we are trying to get children from class 6 to engage in open-ended explorations, not sort of competition-driven, exam-like this thing, but explore mathematics and get a familiarity with it. and create a culture like you have with chess clubs, etc. So I think that the new generation, I'm also optimistic about. Just one last thing about in terms of the researchers, at least from my experience at ICTS, when we hire young people, and these are people who have worked at some of the best places, I often tell them that you shouldn't scale down your ambitions just because you've come back to India to do your research. On the contrary, you should feel yourself freed from some of the groupthink that does exist even in US academia. So in a way, you have a chance in India to blaze a new trail, something that you may feel much more, because the US is a very well-developed academic system, and there is a group sociology there like in any others. But Indian academics, bright people working in India, have a chance to kind of blaze a new trail. So I hope that will happen.
And I would like to add something to it that, which Professor Venkatesh also mentioned, the resources, how. So what we are trying to do, I see, and again, I have to give it to IIT Kanpur management, who has been very open about it. So what we are trying to do is that build this industry student engagement program. And I won't say, so basically the idea is that where we provide these hands-on training through industry, to the students. To work on the real problems of the industry. And again, we have varied domains of companies, from defense and aerospace to healthcare to medtech. So rather than, just going for these, and we have seen that, most of the IITs, they're going for these high pay packages, but we see that how, they're engaging with the industry and the real research problems, working with them changes their attitude. At the same time, we are also trying to have more, as Professor Gopakumar said, that ICTS is doing it at a much, I would say, elementary level, class 6, class 7, but at least, reaching out to the IIT students to let them know that, technology, even if you are going for a startup, it has to be, a real nascent, noble idea, rather than, just going for the job. So I think we are trying to work towards it, and I would just endorse what Professor Venkatesh is saying. We are very optimistic that, things will change. Thank you. Do we have time for any other questions? No? Okay. So I think, sorry, we cannot take your question. Maybe we can interact later after the session. So just the closing thought? Okay. I will just hand it over to Ganesh then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for the interest. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions here. I would like to see those interactions also during the lunch hour after these couple of sessions from this one also. The great insights on different aspects of our research were given to us, and as a token of gratitude, we would like to give a small gift to our session panelists. I will request Ms. Mittal to go down.